If stopping smoking was a painful experience for you mentally and physically, would you be in a hurry to do it? I know I wouldn't. Of course you wouldn't. And neither would anybody else, including me years ago. In fact, you'd take as much time as you could to stop smoking, wouldn't you? And that's why you have to be ready. You have to be ready. However, I will add to that and say that time is all we have in life. And it's what you choose to do with that precious time that counts. So isn't it better to enjoy that time free from the smoking trap forever, living smoke-free? Yes, of course it is. I'm really excited to tell you that my Happy Non-Smoker program will help you step by step through your smoking journey, or your stop smoking journey now. Whether it's hours, days or weeks. And I'll be there to help you every day in some way or another, supporting you through videos, emails, blogs, posts, recordings, our Facebook support group and much more. As I said before, I want you to become a happy non-smoker, and I want you to stop smoking naturally, without the stress, without replacement therapy products, without weight gain, and without any or very minimal withdrawals. And when you do stop smoking, you'll not only feel a sense of freedom as a happy non-smoker, you'll also feel released, completely free from the smoking trap. You'll feel empowered, and you'll feel confident, and you'll feel more proud of yourself than you can ever imagine. I promise you. In fact, it will feel like you have a brand new lease on life, which of course you actually have. You will have. Because you'll no longer feel like you're being controlled day in, day out by the little nicotine monster and cigarettes. Now, you might be saying, it all sounds too good to be true. I've tried so many times in the past and it didn't work for me. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something that I guarantee you didn't know until now. It's been scientifically proven that it takes on average just 21 days for 90% plus of all nicotine and poisonous remnants from smoking cigarettes to leave your body. It also takes just 21 days or less for the unconscious mind, through repetition, to make something an unconscious habit. Just 21 days. I have no doubts that some of you are here because you believe that stopping smoking is hard. I also have no doubts that some of you are hoping that this is a magic wand. A wand that can be waved over you and all of a sudden you have stopped smoking. Am I right? I'm sure I am. Well, the great news is that for some of you, it will feel just like that. You see, many of the ex-smokers that are now happy non-smokers who have stopped smoking using my Simply Easy method have found it so easy, and they've stopped smoking with no withdrawals, no side effects, no weight gain or very little, no mood swings and no desires to smoke anymore. So it feels to them just like magic, like the magic wand being waved over to them. But, and there is a but, there will also be some people that might find it a little bit harder. And like I said before, myself and others will be there to support you or anybody else that might feel that way. The only reason that some people might find it a little bit harder is that we are all different as human beings. And that's a good thing, right? Otherwise the world would be a boring place, wouldn't it? Let's be honest. Of course it would. It's great that we're all unique and different. You know this already, but I'll tell you again. You are addicted to the cigarette. There you go, I've said it. However, and there is a however, having that addiction isn't a big problem and isn't an excuse not to be able to stop smoking. because nobody was born as a smoker. Nobody. Smokers just learn to smoke, which means that they can also unlearn to smoke. And I do have some really great news for you too. You need to understand, and I'm sure you will, that millions of smokers around the world have become ex-smokers and are now happy non-smokers, including myself. Which means that just like you and I, they used to smoke and now they don't. How good is that? What does that mean to you? It means that if millions of others have become permanent happy non-smokers, including myself, so can you. And you can do it much easier now that my Happy Non-Smoker program is available to you. And you can do it all from the comfort of your own home, wherever you are in the world. How good is that? Now, I'm sure you've been trapped in that smoker's trap for way too long. And now it's time to break free and get your life back. Get your life back. I'm sure some of you are saying, okay, that's all good, Mark, but how does it work then? Tell me. Okay, I'll tell you. I'll tell you then. Smoking is 99% mental and just 1% physical. And although it's probably hard to believe, it's pretty much fact. And that's why nicotine replacement products only work for the physical side and not the psychological or mental side of things. Smokers have two monsters in their body. They have the big monster, which is the mind, and they have the little monster, which is the little nicotine monster. The little nicotine monster is the one that's controlled you for so many years by insisting that you keep giving him his nicotine fix every 40 to 60 minutes or so. However, a smoker is only really addicted for just 20 minutes at a time, about 20 minutes. And that's when the nicotine starts to completely leave the body and the body starts to rejuvenate itself. But what does a smoker go and do then? A smoker then goes and tops up the nicotine fix, on average about every hour or so, therefore giving the little nicotine monster his nicotine fix. A smoker also has this thing called the learned addictive habit. The learned addictive habit is the habit of smoking. Maybe after a meal, whilst driving the car, after sex, with coffee, tea, whilst on the phone or with alcohol. I'm sure you know what I mean. I did all of them when I was a smoker years ago. And this is why my Happy Non-Smoker program works in such an amazing way. I use a process which removes and unlearns the old learned smoking habits and replaces them with new and healthy habits. Let me explain. Every smoker has their own reasons and excuses to carry on smoking, including you. It's fact. And that included me when I used to smoke years ago. So, if I broke down and completely removed and squashed all of the reasons and excuses that every smoker uses to carry on smoking, would you agree that you'd then have no reasons and no excuses to carry on smoking? Does that make sense? I'm sure it does. Now, I work with the mind every day with clients for many other issues as well as smoking issues, and I can promise you that smoking is just a learned behaviour. All you've done is learn to smoke, and then you've conditioned your mind and body to accept the smoking habit through repetition. That's all there is to it. Nobody was born with a cigarette in their mouth. Nobody. So, in my Happy Non-Smoker program, you'll learn to condition your mind and body again, but you'll learn to condition them in the opposite way. And I'm sure you're thinking, what? Okay, let me tell you how it's going to work. It's just like a reprogramming of your mind in a very natural way. And by doing so, it then releases you from any dependency on cigarettes or the habitual behaviours that go with it. Does that make sense? Everything we do, we learn, so we can unlearn it. If I told you that there are only 3 hooks, just 3, that keep you smoking, would you believe me? Probably not, right? Okay, I'll prove it to you. Here we go. Hook number 1 is the physical addiction. The physical. Okay, so it's the physical addiction. The physical addiction is the nicotine hit that a smoker gets when they take that first puff of a cigarette. The nicotine then releases through the body and very quickly into the bloodstream and then very quickly to the brain. This then gives you the smoker a so-called high, a good feeling of comfort, a relaxed feeling. And that feeling is the same feeling of something good because it releases a thing called dopamine in your brain, which is a natural feel-good drug that we all have. Hook number 2 is habit. Everything that you've done with smoking is just a learned habit. Everything. It's just a learned habit, I promise you. As I've mentioned before, you've conditioned yourself to smoke through repetition. It's now become an unconscious habit. Just like doing your shoelaces up, it's an unconscious habit. Here's other examples of unconscious habits that you've conditioned yourself to do. I love giving you examples, so here we go. So you get out of the shower and you're soaking wet through. So the conditioned habit that you've learned is that you dry yourself, isn't it? For all of us. Or if you've been driving an automatic car for years and then you jump into a manual car, you very quickly pick up the habit of driving a manual car, don't you? And for those of you who might be saying, well, Mark, I can't drive a manual car anyway, as I'm sure some of you are, that's okay. How about another example? When you walk out of your home, you've conditioned yourself to habitually, from learning it, to put on your shoes, haven't you? It's something that you've done for so long that it's now an automatic or unconscious habit that you've conditioned yourself to do. Does that make sense? Of course it does. And that's exactly the same with smoking. All you've done, you've just conditioned yourself to smoke as a habit. Not a very healthy habit, I might add, but nonetheless a habit. So the smoking habits would include things like holding the cigarette, having a cigarette after a meal, whilst driving your car, after sex, just like I mentioned before, many things. So hook number 3. Hook number 3 is psychological dependency. This is the hook that gets most people and keeps them in the smoking trap. It's the one that smokers use as the biggest reasons and excuses to carry on smoking. And it's there, it lingers at every opportunity for you to slip up or get stressed. Here's some examples. It helps me concentrate. It helps me de-stress, which is a false illusion, by the way. It breaks boredom. It's a friend or a crutch. And of course, all of those are just reasons and excuses used by the smoker. I used to use them. They are just false beliefs of psychological dependency. False beliefs. In my Happy Non-Smoker program, I will literally squash every single reason and excuse that smokers use to carry on smoking in an easy to understand way. I'll keep it simple, stupid, the KISS method. And by breaking down and squashing all the reasons and excuses used by smokers, it then reduces the psychological dependency for the cigarette. And then, very quickly, the psychological dependency will no longer exist. How good does that sound? Sounds great, doesn't it? Now, the Happy Non-Smoker program is a step-by-step process to reverse condition your mind and your body through each stage. It has just 4 stages, and I'm going to take you through each stage in just a moment. You need to understand though, if you miss any of the 4 stages, stopping smoking will be much harder for you.